First, this just happened, and I wanted to type it out before I forget. I have a terrible memory. Also, this could probably be explained or debunked, even though I take most of the posts here for face value. Sometimes I'm like, well, there's a reasonable explanation. So I'll just get on with it. Pretty short, but I'll add context as to why I can't explain it. I unfortunately picked back up smoking cigarettes over the holiday season, and I go out back to smoke. My black cat, Damien, is almost 16 years old. He used to be an indoor-outdoor cat, but as he's gotten older, he rarely goes outside unless it's nice out and he doesn't leave the porch. It is currently raining and cold. I finished my food and came downstairs to go out to the porch to smoke. Damien heard me and came to meow for food or water. I fill up both and he begins to eat. I go outside. The door was locked, everyone else is asleep. And as I sit down, he walks past me, opposite direction from the back door, like he was heading to the door to go back inside. I stop because I'm like, stray cat? But I've had him since he was 6 weeks, and I, kind of in shock, ask, Damien? And he meows back at me. I let him inside and look around the downstairs to make sure I'm not crazy. I mention his age because he's not one to run past me anymore when I open the back door, and even though it's raining, I still looked back to see if he wanted to come outside with me. He didn't. He was eating. I don't know. Maybe there's an explanation, but I was so shook I thought of this sub and wanted to share. Comment. Cats can bilocate. Honestly, I never believed it, but it happened to my husband and I years ago. I sat down on the bed and pet our cat. She was being really affectionate, so I yelled out, "Hey, come here for a pat. Simba's really smoochy." My husband yells back, "What the fuck are you talking about? She's asleep next to me on the couch. I'm scratching her head." I froze and looked down at her on the bed, and she meowed at me, and I kept scratching her chin. "Yeah, haha," I yelled out. Then my husband sends me a photo of her sitting next to him asleep on the couch from the other room. I looked back from my phone to where I was just petting her on the bed, but there was just a faint shadowy figure of her that quickly dissolved. I walked out to the lounge room, and there she was, fast asleep next to him. We only had one cat. No doors were open. My daughter did something last night that really made me think twice. I bought us her favorite ice cream before we sat down to watch a movie. I took the tub of ice cream out of the freezer, made 2 scoops each, put the tub back in the freezer, and got us spoons. As soon as I got the spoons in the bowls, I told her to go sit down in her little chair and table, and I'd bring her the ice cream. She sat down, I brought her the bowl, and started the movie. Before I ate mine, I got up to go to the bathroom. I came back, and my daughter is standing at the edge of the kitchen. "Baby girl, what's up?" "You didn't bring me the ice cream, Dad." I shook my head. "What are you talking about, Princess? It's on your green table." It's her kid-sized plastic table. I looked over, and sure enough, it wasn't there, and my bowl wasn't on the coffee table either. I looked over at the counter, and both bowls were right there with the spoons still in them. I spent the whole night thinking I was losing my mind, but my daughter was clearly correct. Either I envisioned it and didn't do it, or something glitched. This story takes place 8 years back. We used to live in a joint family of 17 people, so we were used to everyone's habits and dislikes and personalities. One time, my cousin, let's call her A, got dengue, and she had took 2 weeks off from school, and we were worried for her as she was vomiting continuously. She took a whole room for herself, and only she and her mother would be there, and we were not allowed as they scared us that the dengue is viral. Once she got cured, and I saw her after 2 weeks, she was not the same cousin. Her face was completely changed. I asked my mother who she is, and she said she is A, my cousin. Afterward, I told my siblings that this is not A, but they made fun of me. Still, after 8 years, she is married and has her own home, and whenever she comes to visit, she just gives me eerie vibes as she has a totally different face but the same personality. For the first year after her dengue, I could remember her old face, but now that's also forgotten, and I'd accepted the fact until recently I saw the old face of A in one of my dreams. I've been thinking about this a lot since it happened 2 days ago, and I don't know what to think. I was driving to school on Friday, and I was on a narrow back road with lots of hills because my school is in the middle of nowhere, and back roads are my quickest way to get there. I saw a big yellow school bus driving down the road, as I often saw and dreaded seeing on this road because it's so narrow, and I could tell that the bus and I would be driving past each other right on a big hill that you can't see over once you are close to it. So, to avoid crashing head-on or sideswiping the bus, I slowed down and moved over as far to the side of the road as I could as I approached the hill. However, when I reached the top of the hill, there was no school bus in sight. I could see the end of the back road that I was on, and there are no crossroads, parking lots, alleys, or anything like that where the bus could have turned. I drive this road nearly every single day. There's also no way that the bus could have turned around and went back the other way on this narrow road, especially within the short amount of time between when I first saw the bus and 3 to 5 seconds later when I reached the top of the hill and saw that there was actually no bus. There were no other cars between this hill where I was and the end of the road, so it's not like I could have mistaken a car for a school bus either. I've tried to make sense of it and come up with explanations, but I can't think of any. Please let me know what you think. This has been bothering me for days, and I really don't know what to think of it. It's one of those experiences that makes you question everything. First off, I know this is nothing compared to other stories on here, but I chose to share because why not? Before and after this incident, several other things did and continue to happen to me, strange things. I've just gotten used to it and have learned to appreciate them. So this was when I was about 8 in 2001. My mom, brother, aunt, and grandma had all traveled to Chicago to see Dinosaur Sue. We had been staying in a hotel nearby for about 5 days. It was very upscale, new, and overall very nice. Those entire 5 days, my mom would let me run ahead to the elevator when returning to our room from swimming, getting ice, etc., and let me ride up alone, since our room was right to the left of the elevator when you got off, and my grandma would always have the door cracked. So one day, on the way back from the pool, literally just got out, wet hair, suit, towel. I did the same, ran ahead and entered the elevator, pressed the button for the 7th floor. There is only one elevator in this hotel, by the way. Once I got to the 7th floor, which I knew by the signs outside the elevator, I went to the second door to the left like I had maybe 20 times before that week. I knocked and knocked. Nothing. I remember becoming weirdly alarmed at this point, best way I can describe it, even though I was smart enough to know I could always just return to the lobby or that my mom would be arriving shortly. So while wondering why my grandma wasn't answering the door, I returned the few feet to the elevator and waited for my mom and brother. I saw on the display that the elevator was arriving on floor 7, the floor I was on, which was clearly written on the sign. I see the light and hear the elevator ding and the doors open. Empty. At this point, I just feel something is very off and return to the door, knocking and crying now, getting cold because I'm still very wet from the pool. Finally, after no more than 1 minute, a very old woman answers the door and says, "Dear, I told you already yesterday, this is not your room." I had never been there yesterday. She then said, "It will be fine. I'm very sorry, but I'm on the phone with my son. Give me a few more minutes. Your mother is coming." And freaking closed the door. I was shocked. I knew I was cute. And how could anyone close the door on a crying kid who lost their mother, especially a woman who seemed like the caring grandmother type? Almost immediately after she closed the door, the elevator opened, and my mom ran out crying and grabbed me. She was saying, "Oh, honey, where were you? I've never been so worried." She then went to open the door. Not our room. She was stunned. The whole time I'm trying to explain I had been here, and my timeline of events had only been about 5 minutes. Her still hugging and holding me, she kinda just went into autopilot and went back into the elevator with me. She pressed 7 again. The doors closed super briefly and then reopened. The elevator didn't move at all. Once the door opened, we both saw my grandmother standing in the second door to the left crying, and then very happy running to hug us. Apparently, I had been missing for 45 minutes. Police were called, every floor had been gone to. They were still in the process of knocking on all doors, opening even locked vacant rooms. Apparently, my mother had decided to once more go and look at the pool to see if I had returned there. Then, after seeing it empty, she took the same only elevator back up to 7. Only this time, out of the multiple other times that day, she found me. And not only that, we were clearly not in the elevator hiding out, as it was the only one, and the police and staff had gone up and down the elevator multiple times looking for me. We still talk about it to this day and can't explain it. My hair was still wet. The police were kinda pissed until the hotel staff pulled up the camera showing me getting on the elevator, but then never getting off it. Then, what was the creepiest was that when my mother got on from the lobby, you see her get on, then 10 minutes pass, and then she gets off at floor 7 with me in her arms. They went through all cameras on all floors, which had very clear angles of the elevator on each floor. Nothing. I swear the staff was freaked out, as were the police. They were almost convinced someone had taken me and then became freaked out and left me shortly after. They were stumped as to why my hair was still wet, but they couldn't refute the cameras as they were high resolution, working correctly, and everything. I've always wanted to call back and see if they still talk about it years later. I just don't want to mess with it, because it's not like I even see the event as serving a purpose, you know? I have no clue who the woman was, nor was I ever able to identify her. Because for the investigation, even after they found me, they locked down the hotel and all possible exits and had a perimeter. Chicago does not fuck around, by the way, with possible abductions. Every guest in the hotel was more than happy to help. Women from ages 50 on all willingly let police take photos. None of them was the woman. This woman had very blue eyes, like very. The only possible connection I can think of is that the woman and I had almost identical eyes. I have kinda a rare color for how dark my hair is. I don't know. Sorry for the long post. Near where I grew up, there was a large amusement park. One half of it was rides and coasters, and the other half was a water park. Obviously, the summer jobs there were a great pull when you were a teenager, and they employed a huge number of my friends on summer break from college. The jobs over in the water park were generally considered more desirable, although I was never able to get them because I am a horrible swimmer. Basically, the water park opened later and closed earlier, so the shifts were nicer, and they had to pay you more because you had to be first aid and CPR and lifeguard certified. A lot of my friends worked there, and I knew about 3 of the people involved in this story. It started at a water slide, one of the huge tube slides that you had to walk up 7 flights of steps to get to the top. One lifeguard was posted up top, telling people when to go down, and one of my friends was the lifeguard at the bottom who helped people off the slide and gave the all clear for the next person to go. A family had come with their child, who was very young and apparently barely the height limit to go on the ride. The family was in line with their father first, kid second, and mother last, so that someone would be with the kid at both the top and the bottom of the slide. The father goes down the slide, gets off, and the lifeguard gives the all clear and waits. He can't really see what's going on up top, but finally the next rider comes down. It's the mother, who walks over to the father and asks where their son is. There's a moment of confusion, and my friend is pulled over by the family. The kid had been the next one to enter the slide up top before his mother, but had never come out the bottom. My friend is confused, calls up to the top lifeguard, who verifies that the kid went down the slide. Neither my friend nor the father saw the kid come out the bottom. Until this is figured out, they shut down the ride. The top lifeguard calls security and reports this as a missing child, while my friend calls a supervisor. The supervisor shows up and is apparently afraid the kid is wedged in the tube somehow, and in such a way that the mother failed to dislodge him coming down the slide. The way she said it was apparently obvious she was assuming some injury to be involved. The parents are obviously upset at this point and freaking out, and the supervisor has the upper lifeguard go down the ride himself, spread out to make sure there's no child jammed into the turns of the ride. He comes out the bottom, having not dislodged the corpse of the child, and everyone is more confused than ever. Meanwhile, security called, saying they just turned up a missing kid near one of the coasters. Could they get a description of the child missing? The super sort of dismisses it out of hand that it could have been the same child. The coaster they found the kid by was clear across the park, and the child was only missing for a few minutes at this point. Instead, she has a bunch of lifeguards run up the stairs and come down the slide, still hoping to dislodge the kid, while other employees quietly look around the bottom in case the kid somehow managed to fall out of the tube. Meanwhile, upper management is called in as the parents of the kids are alternating between yelling and blaming each other, panicking and threatening to sue the park. Upper management calls security and asks them to pull the security camera footage from the top of the slide to try to figure out what happened. A kid a few years ahead of me in high school happened to be working security, and he was there when they pulled the footage, and one of the security guards says that he is almost positive that's the kid they have in the next room. They get the kid's name, and sure enough, he's in the missing children's room, safe and sound. Here's where things get weird. The footage shows the father, kid, and mother entering the slide. It's also time-stamped so they know when the child went down the slide. The incident report for when the kid was found clear across the park behind a roller coaster showed he was discovered less than 5 minutes later. If you've ever noticed, nothing in an amusement park is laid out linearly. There's always fences and bushes and buildings between you and where you want to go. The idea is to make you ramble about between rides to cut down on ride wait time. My friend, the security guard, tested it, and walking at a stiff clip and knowing all the shortcuts, it was a 20-minute walk for him. Furthermore, when you hit the edge of the water park, there were signs that shirts and shoes had to be worn past that point. If you saw anyone, even a kid, walking past there without them, you were to detain them. The kid was found barefoot and shirtless in just his swim trunks. The idea that no one across a 12-acre would stop this kid, who to travel that far had to be running, and ask him to put on appropriate clothing is completely weird. Weirdest of all was that the incident report stated that the child seemed disoriented and was at first not able to respond to questions. It also stated that the kid, who was in a water slide 5 minutes prior, was bone dry. This was the talk of the park for about a week, with everyone trying to come up with explanations, guards searching the other security footage trying to find the kid going across the park, people trying to get from the slide to the coaster, etc. Then the upper management came out and basically hushed it up. Supervisors told that if they heard anyone talking about it, that they would be fired. Pretty soon the park moved on to whatever the next drama was, and it got swept aside. But yeah, child goes down slide and into time and space portal. This happened to me over a period of about 6 months, about 35 years ago. I've never really been able to get even close to explaining this, and it's hard to put into words, but I'm about to try. The apartment I grew up in was run strictly on regulations. One of them was the walls are painted pure white between tenants. We were not allowed to paint the walls. The bathrooms were tiny. If you were to sit on the toilet, center of the back wall, the tub took up the entire left wall. The sink and counter took up the entire right wall. The door opened opposite the toilet and was close enough you could kick your feet out while sitting and kick the door open. On either side of the door there was about 1.5 feet of pure white wall. I lived in this place for many years, but only for a period of about 6 months did the blue square appear. The blue square was a transparent blue perfect square that could be seen on the left of the door, about 2 feet from the floor on the white wall. Think the blue glow around a lightsaber, but a small square. It was 2 feet by 2 feet. It was very much ethereal and not physical, like a foggy light. It was not able to be touched. The square felt like any other part of the wall. I was the only person who could see the square. It was always in that exact spot. I marked it with a pencil, and only in that spot, so I know it wasn't an issue with my vision. I gave up talking about it because nobody else could see it, even if I outlined it. Then one day I went to the bathroom and it was gone. Nobody painted over it as my pencil outline was still there. I have no idea what this could have been. I work in our local courthouse. I have appointments with clients that are court-ordered to meet with me. I keep a busy schedule almost every day. Monday afternoon, I had 2 clients not appear for their appointments. I get an appointment sheet every day from my assistant. I noted their cases and emailed my assistant to schedule another appointment with me. Yesterday, I was looking at my appointments for the next day, today, and the 2 that didn't appear Monday are on my schedule for today. I went back, checked my schedule online, checked my paper printout, checked their cases. They were always scheduled for today, never Monday. I swear to God they were on my schedule Monday. So, in December 2020, our cat had 5 kittens. We kept 2 of them, a black one, Lucy, and a gray one, Smokey. We couldn't book the mama in to get fixed due to COVID, so she got pregnant again and gave birth to a second litter of kittens in January 2022. There were 4 black ones and a gray one. In February, Lucy got run over down our street and passed away. 2 weeks later, one of the black kittens also passed away at 4 weeks old. This left us with Smokey, Mama, 3 black kittens, and a gray one. We decided to keep a kitten as a friend for Smokey as he lost his brother and chose the gray one. I found homes for the other 3 kittens at 10 weeks old. Here's the glitch. The day after the kittens went to their new homes, my partner and I were about to head out camping. We went to get in the car, and a black kitten, same size, age, color, and markings as Lucy, comes running out from under the car. It ran up to me meowing and purring, so I picked it up and took it inside to clean it up. It had weepy eyes. We figured one of our previous kittens had been dumped back at our house, but I contacted the new owners and they all still had their kittens. To this day, we can't figure out where on the earth he came from. He's the friendliest cat I've ever met. We planned to rehome him, but it just seems like he chose us on purpose, and I love him too much to let him go, so he's stayed with us. His personality is so much like Lucy's, too. We never intended to keep Lucy either, but it was the same deal there, way too friendly and loving for me to give away. Today, I was on my way to pick up my kids from my parents who watch them while I work. About halfway through the drive, I called my mom to tell her to have the kids ready to go because the visibility was getting bad, and I didn't want to spend much time getting them ready because I wanted to get home before it got even more unsafe. I got to a turn I typically take. I was stuck in the left turn lane for several rotations because the light was broken and never turned green. Frustrated, I got back onto the main road and started mindlessly driving toward the next route I would take. I was focusing on the road immediately in front of me and listening to an audiobook. I was driving straight for a while when I realized nothing looked like it should for where I should be. I thought I must have been driving mindlessly and overshot the turn. While looking for a point of reference, the snow visibility got considerably more clear, and I realized I was back where I already was before, just before the light with the broken turn signal. I was so freaked out that I just kept driving past that light to the next route to my parents' house. This time I paid extra attention and made it to pick up my kids. When I arrived, my mom asked what took me so long. I told her I was unsure, but told her my experience. She was freaked out, but prayed for me before I left with my kids. On my way home, I was sure to check all the lights to see if any were broken. None seemed to be. Everything since seems fine. The only conclusion I can come to was that the snow visibility was so bad that I just got incredibly confused and tried to turn at a much earlier turn, and the light was fixed by the time I got back. Or God literally moved me backwards through space to protect me from something. In either case, I will look at it as a blessing. I still can't quite account for why it took me so long in any case. I should have arrived sooner, even in a snowstorm. I have no lapse in memory and can even recall which parts of the audiobook I was at and when, including the first and second times I arrived at the same street and everything in between. Okay, this happened 2 days ago, and no one in my friend group can help me figure out a logical explanation, so I was told to go to Reddit. So here I am. Excuse me for any grammar or punctuation mistakes. I work in a building with a bunch of different business offices. We share a communal restroom outside in the common area. We can only get in with a key, and only employees from the various offices have keys. I was walking to the women's restroom, and another lady was already ahead of me going towards the restroom, too. She had on business attire and black pointy heels. She opens the women's restroom door and pushes it open so I can grab the door before it closes. I say thanks. She's still ahead of me. Now, the restroom only has 3 bathroom stalls, 2 small ones and 1 large stall on the far right. I see her go into the middle stall, and I stand for a second and decide to just take the other small stall on the far left. So now the only stall available is the large stall on the far right. These stall doors and walls don't reach all the way to the floor, so you can see the feet of people next to you and walking past your stall. Hopefully this makes sense. I sit down and see the lady's black heels next to me. They were like a particular older style, so they just stood out to me. I don't know, I was just aware of what they looked like. She was already in the middle of her bathroom business. I turn to the other side to grab some toilet paper, and I hear someone else enter the restroom, and I see brown heels walk across from in front of my restroom door. I see this pair of brown heels walk into the stall next to me, right where I had just seen black heels literally moments ago, and it caught me off guard. I thought that maybe 2 people were having a meeting in the restroom, if you know what I mean. But no, I only see the brown heels now, and I'm super confused because this was happening in a matter of seconds. So I finish up super quick, and when I step outside, I see that both the small and the large stalls are occupied. I bend down and see a pair of black heels in the large stall and the brown pair in the stall next to me. And now I'm panicked, because I know for a fact that the black pair were in the stall next to me, and this wasn't like minutes long, this was seconds. The lady who had on the black pair of heels was like peeing when the other lady walked in, so I don't understand how she suddenly flew into the large stall. I stood in the sink area for a second and was contemplating maybe asking these women what kind of prank they're pulling, but I felt already crazy, so I didn't want to scare two random women with what I just saw. I also had this weird, odd sensation that I saw something I wasn't supposed to. The only way I can explain the feeling is like when you get caught doing something wrong. I had goosebumps, and I honestly felt like something dropped to the pit of my stomach. Now, before people say maybe she was out of toilet paper, etc., these restrooms get stocked every morning, and I don't think I've ever seen a stall run out of toilet paper in the last 5 years I've worked in this complex. Another explanation I've heard is maybe you just didn't notice her change stalls, which could be the case if she wasn't the first to enter the stalls. She was already in the middle of her business by the time I sat down and situated myself. Again, all this had happened in a matter of moments. The brown heels walked in seconds after we had entered our stalls. So, yeah, I can't explain it. I don't know what I saw. I was fully aware and conscious of my surroundings. I didn't even have my phone on me, so it's not like I was distracted. I had slept enough, I had my coffee, and I know it sounds crazy, but that's why I'm posting it here. Hello, little Vickies. Thanks so much for listening. If you like what you heard, please subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the like button and leave a comment if you have a suggestion or just want to say hello. If you have a story of your own you'd like to share and possibly have read on the channel, send it to me at veronica45stories@gmail.com. Link is also in the description, as are other ways to support the channel. I post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday by 5 p.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it more than I can possibly say. And until next time, be good.